Okay, so Genevieve comes down and you get a chance to explore someone else, go on a date. The date goes really well, but then what happens? Like, why go back to Jess? Because she's not all in. And did you know while you were on that date, Jess and Tyler kissed? What happened there?
Okay, so obviously Jen comes down, and
I'm sorry not to cut you off. I've been trying to figure out this Jess Tyler thing.
We've asked like 4 guests about this Jess Tyler.
It's like no one even cares anymore. Shut the fuck up to myself. But I
know.
I know. I feel like
a few loose ends that were like really dying to close, and you have the answers.
No, that makes full sense. So Jen came down. It was honestly perfect timing in a sense, because the night before I said, Jess, you got to do your thing tomorrow, so go take your space and sort that out. And then when Jen came down and asked me on the date, I was like, hey, well, this is going to be the best opportunity. I'm not going to be here. I don't have to watch your shit. I can bring in some adversity to this and see how you feel when I'm gone. I can see how I feel when I'm out on that date, knowing that you're doing your thing back at the beach. And that'll initiate some movement, good or bad. It'll initiate something. So I had a great time with Jen. And honestly, during the date, like Jen was great. So I wasn't really thinking about Jess during the date, but as soon as things started wrapping up, you start thinking about everything that was going on. And so when I came back, I was really nervous. I actually didn't get to speak to Jess that night. I saw her very briefly, but she was kind of just wrapped up and kind of upset. And so I didn't get to see her till the next day. And so I remember panicking a little bit because I also didn't know what she got up to that day. So I was like, went to bed, like freaking out a little bit.
Yeah. When you came back that night, did you have a decision about like what you wanted to do with your little love triangle?
I was veering one way, but I knew I needed to sleep on it.
Okay. And
so
that way was
veering. I was like, it was like veering. Like if I had to make a decision at that moment, I was still going to pick Jess, but Jen really did make me think. This is how I try to explain to people. Jen made sense in my head in terms of like, she was coming in, she was super into it, wanted to go forward with it. But like Jess, like my heart was making the decision for Jess, but my brain would have made the decision for Jen, because Jess wasn't necessarily giving me the things that I needed. And my practical brain was saying Jen makes more sense here, but my heart was saying Jess still.
Blake, you followed your heart, Blake. You followed your heart.
But you've also spent so much more time with Jess. It would have had to have been like sparks flying, I feel like, for you to have left that to go towards Jen.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next day you wake up and you have the chance to talk to Jess.
Well, I mean, so the next day is rose ceremony, so I don't get to see her obviously through the day.
Worst.
So rough. I knew that she was probably panicking a little bit too, and not knowing where my head was at going into. I had the roses that day, and again, knowing that like she's very much in her head, she's an overthinker, she's sensitive and things. I got to talk to Tyler that day. So I had an understanding of where Tyler's head was at. And so I didn't know that they had shared a kiss at that moment, but I knew that they had chatted, and I knew that he was still very much interested in Mercedes, and that's where his rose was going to go.
Interesting.
Okay.
And so at least that gave me a little bit of like, well, whether she wants it or not, he's interested in Mercedes. So it gave me a little bit of, a good feeling anyways. And then
were you happy to hear that they like chatted and there was like some exploration done on her end? Like, would you have been disappointed to come back and find out that she just like sat on the couch with the girls?
So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we did this for you to go and do that, right? So yeah, I would have been.
And did you have any issue with Tyler personally for making a move? Okay.
No, because I also knew that it was needed. Somebody needs to press her and like, put her in situations where she could feel and figure out if I was something she wanted or not. So no, I understand that it was needed, but she was panicking probably that day, not knowing if the rose was coming or not. Because she also, unless she talked to Jen probably honestly would have just said I was super into Blake and it was, it went well and we had a great time because we really did. So it might have, freaked out a little bit going to the rose ceremony.
Okay, so then you guys have a conversation that night, and you both like you flirt with the idea like you both like still like want to pursue each other.
Yeah, so little side note, I gave her a note earlier that day. I slipped it to another girl to give it to her that she felt a little like calmer going into, because I know she was panicking. So she probably had an idea that, it was going to go her way that night. So when we sat down, I think she was more calm than she would have been if I didn't try to like help her calm her nerves with that little note going into the night. So when we sat down.
What did the note say?
You know what? It was on a little like coffee, like cardboard coffee thing. I forget exactly what it said, but essentially it was like, I essentially told her I was like thinking about her all day, and like I don't want you to worry about just something like what to worry about tonight or whatever it was, just to calm her. And then we had that conversation, and I think she knew that it was going to be a good one just for my end. And I was curious, honestly, just to see where she was coming from in her conversation, because she didn't know necessarily that I had talked to Tyler that day, and that Tyler wasn't going to necessarily give her the rose. So I was waiting to see how she approached that conversation. And how
were you wondering if she was going to tell you or not? Or were you like confident she was going to bring it up?
We had a very honest, transparent relationship, and all the way through for the most part. So she would have told me, and she did. Yeah.
And she told you that like they kissed, and what was kind of the story there?
So she was very transparent both times. When she did eventually talk to Tanner a little bit and felt that out, she didn't feel any connection was there from, the original thought that he was like her number one coming down. It just wasn't that a click wasn't there that she thought. And so she wasn't interested in that. And then with Tyler, she very much was like attracted to him and liked it, but it wasn't like this, what I call aha moment where you're like, oh my God, she wasn't like infatuated or felt like it was something strong enough to like make a switch in comparison to what we felt.
So nothing was topping your guys' relationship. Like your connection with Jen was great. Her time with Tyler was great. But there was the realization like what we have is the strongest right now.
Exactly. We both had like the connections with Tyler and Jen that were good, and like, but they just stayed good. And we weren't going to pursue those and breaking what we built.
Right. You weren't going to like sacrifice your current relationship to pursue something else.
Not at that point.